So welcome everyone to Digital Vino today, and we're here a bit delayed, but that's okay. It's a bit misunderstanding between me and Nelson, but Nelson is the guest today, and we're just going to do the intro, and then I will present him and let him talk, because I'm sure that most of you already know him. Okay, welcome Nelson Pari to Digital Vino. I'm very happy to have you here, and anche per chi vuole qualcosa in italiano basta che ci dite e poi cambiamo un po' lingua, non ci sono problemi. But we'll start in English. So do you want to present yourself, and I will share the links in the meantime?
Yeah. So first of all, completely my fault. Google is now. I was like, 777. Like, absolutely, and it went all downwards from there. So sorry about that. I don't know. Like, you know what? Like more than. First of all, one thing. By listening to the intro, do you know who is the music of the intro? Who did it?
It's this site that they have Noise, where they have this kind of new artists who can upload music and you can use it.
All right, it's like a library music thing, because if someone like this is just a great moment, I don't have a hand to do it. But there's like the intro is clearly taken from the general idea, which is like a pentatonic up and down in I think it's like a group. It's like a sort of like group of six that comes back like every time. Is clearly copied by one of the greatest albums. But if I can give you something at the end, like, you know, when you're listening to things or interview, I always I had one teacher who used to say to me, you know, if somebody goes on with one thing is more than enough. So it can be one thing. I think it's not going to be on wine. The thing is, listen to Discipline by King Crimson, because that's clearly it was a frame by frame method of counting.
Okay, now we disappeared, but we're coming back. Let's see. Okay, so we went waiting while he's coming back, and I'm going to share this new video a bit everywhere. Okay, we're back.
I named King Crimson, and the line went fucked up. So King Crimson, Discipline. The tune is frame by frame, probably one of the greatest. No, you know, like I don't know, like how good I feel. I'll tell you, like, straight away, when I must to present myself, I feel really embarrassed, and I truly don't know what to say.
But I think that's general.
What would you like to know?
I think, why don't you tell us a bit about how you went from Romagna to UK, and obviously you started out in the music sector. So if you say a few words about that and how.
So when I was a kid, I lived in Rimini, and the most great thing that we had, I don't know if you were around at the time or if you remember this thing, there was this club called Slego. And Slego then became Velvet. Velvet used to be the greatest Italian rock club. And to give you an idea, when I talk with one of the person, like, there's one girl that works with my dad, and she saw the born of this Slego. And I remember when she went there, like, you know, one Saturday you had Nirvana, and the Saturday after Pearl Jam. That was how insane the place was. And when I was a kid, I remember one of the first gigs that I saw was Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, A Perfect Circle. And it was literally just not outside my door, but like 10 minutes, absolutely 10 minutes. So we lived in a world that wasn't real at all. and it was all made like we felt like the being a rock star could be true. So I wanted to be a musician because when you see fucking Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, you're just like whoa, and it was like the first one of the first albums, and it was like just great. You could never thought that three people could make so much noise, and I've seen through there because like the Velvet Club was really modern, and so what happened was that we saw the end of ska and the born of indie through the metal revolution when emo, there was like that sort of like metal emo core, and I played actually with a band that was really really famous called Dawn Under Eclipse, and we did few big tours, and then I moved playing indie because that was the thing. Like indie rock was really like Editors,
Yeah.
Interpol. That was, and Editors were at Velvet. So every year we went there to see Editors. So I was like, whoa, this is Led Zeppelin, the Queen, everything super good, but it's not like something modern. Like I
No,
couldn't
that's
go and
true.
see Led Zeppelin, but I could see Interpol every year. I could see Editors every year, and they were literally at my doorstep. So I felt like this is the shit. So I did like an album that is around somewhere. I don't know. It's called Squeezing by a band called Lemon Scented Project, and we won Best Indie Band by Cataweb, that was edited by Espresso, by the group of L'Espresso, and we did loads of gigs as well. So that was the thing. Like when I was a kid, that was it. And when I moved, so I thought like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. Fuck whatever it is. Like I'm just gonna be a musician. And I moved to Bologna just to see a bit more because if you're from Rimini or you go to Milan or Rome or you
Yeah.
go to Bologna because it's super near there, and there used to be like a great academy there because there was a teacher called Giacomo Castellano that used to be like one of the greatest, absolutely greatest session player in Italy. He used to play like with I think with Elisa, Giannini, and at the time I was big for something else, like a really big rock act, and they were like, and Vasco Rossi had a studio in Bologna, so I've like all those people were around there. And what happened was that while studying in Bologna, they gave us to me and a friend of mine the opportunity to go to Guildford. And
Oh,
when we went to Guildford, we saw it before like signing for the school, and it was nuts. It was nuts because like what I'll give you an idea. When you are a musician in Italy, and this is like the classic joke that they do, is like okay, you're a musician, and what is your real job? And
yeah.
when I went in the UK and I started, like I went to a couple of lessons there, everything, like the content itself wasn't different. Like you're not learning in the UK something musically different, but they're taking you seriously.
Yeah.
And I remember that, like if you want to play a gig in Bologna, you need to know 3,000 people. They're going to connect you with the right people, and maybe you're going to get a gig for free. And I remember that when we went in Guildford, the first 2 weeks, we were packed with gigs and full of money. So it's like, whoa. So this is reality. You can make it. And what happened was that I kept on, go and study music. So I got into jazz because, that's the only choice that is left for someone that studies 15 years and is a big nerd. And I majored at Trinity Lab in actually 1 year. No, actually, as soon as I majored, I moved to 6 Pall Mall because I went to this wedding of one of the academy's bosses that he had all the connection. It was like into, I think it was part of Universal or some shit, I don't remember. And what happened was that I was probably at the top. I was doing all the coolest things that I've done in the time. I was playing in the Kenny Wheeler section at the Trinity Lab, and it was nuts. And then what happened was like that I had one day in which I wasn't doing anything. It was, I think, Tuesday. So on Tuesday, nothing to do, no gigs. I've never liked even going out. And to be honest, more than spending time going out and spending money, I thought, okay, so maybe I can earn some money just by thanks to the course that I've done, because I met this guy called Flavio Buratto, which is one of the master sommelier from Alma in Italy. And
Okay.
he told me like, why don't you try? So I did WSET level 2 and 3, which now a lot of people in Italy are doing. And I thought it was great, because literally those courses are really different from the one that we do in Italy, and they focus on things that
Yeah.
are really really different as well. And then literally through this place where we're working once a week, I got a call from Pall Mall. And from down there, it was just, I just left a 15-year career, just to just to work for the first time in my life, more than 40 hours, because like with music, even if you work, you don't feel like you're working. You know what I mean? It's just like, especially in jazz. In jazz, everything's like improv, like tonight. So it's more like every time it's like I don't know what's gonna happen. So it can be the best gig of your life, or probably the worst. But you don't feel like the job appeal to it. You're just like, there's always like this sort of New York bullshit in which, I'm discovering myself. I'm not gigging. In reality, you are gigging most of the time in the shittiest pubs ever. But you're finding like so fascinating, especially if you've been living in Italy for a long time, where these things are mostly a bubble. Like there's been like jazz bubbles around Italy that are really great. They're like amazing players, but like they went like, I don't know, Bologna had a bubble for 2 years that was incredible. If you lived in Bologna for those 2 years, it felt like, whoa, I'm in New York, and now it's gone. In England, it keeps on going. It's like when a bubble dies and a new bubble starts, which
Another
is a
one
thing that
comes up.
usually
Yeah.
doesn't happen that much.
Yeah. So let's go over to, I mean, when you started, I mean, you were recruited to come and work at the Pall Mall, no?
Mhm.
So how was it to do this transition from all music to all wine?
Okay, this is the funny thing. The funny thing is that this is what I truly think. When you are studying heavily for one thing at major levels, like we were doing in music, translating the same thing to anything else is really easy, as much as you really want to go deep into it. So this is what is the advantage of it. If you are used to study 6 or 7 hours a day, and your life is completely absorbed into one thing, if you then decide, and you need to be like really clear, this is it, like
Yeah.
after now is not music anymore, it's just going to be wine.
Yeah.
Basically you're just switching the interest.
No,
The
that is true.
thing,
I agree.
yeah, the thing is that, like, I've been lucky enough to live, and I was thinking about this today, I don't know why. I've only been lived in my life moments of history that are of passage. I think that I think that everyone who was born like 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93 have this thing. So we are like a sort of a bubble in which we never experience something fully. So we've seen the end of the start of things, but we never like going like boom into it. So if you think about it, we saw the start of pop music as a revelation going through the electronic music, but we never went fully on both of them.
No.
uh, I was, at the time in which the instruments were dying and the DJ revolution were starting, all the dubstep. When I went to school, like Skrillex and Zomboy, they were there all the time. Actually,
Yeah.
Zomboy was one of the students. And, like, we saw, but I'd never been involved in anything because I was just there when things were changing. And I think in wine as well. So in wine, I was lucky enough to be in for example, I've been in the transition between Bordeaux to Burgundy. So I think that in the last 5 years, all the major collectors of Bordeaux really went for Burgundy. So because like you're thinking like, oh my God, Burgundy, Bordeaux, thousands of years, but in reality, most of these bubble movements are really, really modern. Like these Burgundy stuff, I remember exactly that 4 or 5 years ago, the prices of Burgundy were really condensed. So like the big boom happened when I was there. And at the same time, I'm seeing the start of Barolo, because I'm seeing this kind of mixed identity of Brunello di Montalcino. Because there's another thing, when Italy is promoting stuff in a way that I from here don't understand at all. So I'm seeing like the starting of this, and I'm privileged enough that like for example in Italy I'm famous for the interview from Intravino with Jacopo Gossater, the Verticale magazine. But for example, nobody knows the work that I'm doing. Like in the UK, the people know me for the work that I do for Barolo, or certain
But I
things that
think that's
It's
quite
different.
usual, no? That where you actually live, it's where you get kind of most known. So of course, you work
To
in the
be honest, it's
UK.
weird. I don't know. Like I don't know if
Because
I'm
I live
like.
here and I live here since 20 years, and
Mhm.
like everybody in a more Anglo-Saxon world and Italian world, people know who I am. If I go to Sweden in a wine world, nobody knows who I am.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
They say like, "Well, you're nobody because we don't know you," and I was like, "Well,"
Yeah,
because I
it's
think
something.
everybody's very focused. Apart from US and UK, most countries are very focused on themselves.
You know what it is, and I started recently an English blog just because of that. It's really hard. Like, is probably the biggest problem as when I'm thinking about like brand development. I'm a big fan of those. For example, Show Your Work from Austin Kleon, probably the greatest book on personal
Yeah,
branding of all times. And when I read it, my only problem that I have when I think about like what is my personal branding, the problem that I have is this one, that I talk to two markets that have nothing in common, but they share, what is the core concept, which is wine and selling wine.
yeah,
And the problem itself is this: that, for example, in Italy, Italy is way more bullshit based. So in Italy, you just need to play around with words, say loads of things. And for example, when I go and I do this new style of masterclasses that I do more in the UK, so it's master. I have people that are like, "Oh my god!" But I came here to hear you telling me what I need to find in the wine, and I'm like, "Fuck off! You don't need me. You got yourself." And that's more than enough. In England, the key when you do a masterclass, Jasper Morris or Jane Answer are not there to tell you, oh, this is what you need to smell. They are there to guide you towards your own individuality, which is something that in Italy doesn't
yeah.
exist.
I think
And so
that's also, I think that it's still a bit old school in Italy, that they think they have to tell you how a wine is.
it's you know what it is. It's like in Italy, the difference is this: in England, or generally in the rest of the world, I will say you go to a masterclass to learn. So the difference is that like you're entering in a place that has more a sort of a school vibe. Maybe when you come to see my masterclasses, I think about them as gigs. So when I do my music and wine with Richard Banfield, we have like people calling for one more, like if they're on a gig, but it's a different setting. When you're going in Italy inside the masterclass, you are in a church. You're not going there to taste the wine. You're going there to, in a sense, like give your praise to the host.
Yeah,
Um,
that
and
is true.
also, the way that people speaks, like for example, when I speak or people speaks about Michael Broadbent, they have a sort of like there's some sort of gratefulness for what he did, but there's not nothing sacred about it. When people talking about Mario Soldati or Luigi Veronelli, there is something deeply sacred that you cannot touch, and that's something that I don't like at all. And
No,
it's the reason
neither.
why I'm
It's like
extremely.
you always have to refer to them as the great person, or the greatest of all, or the
Yeah, it's more like that. It seems like that what they say cannot be touched. In a way,
yeah,
like you can touch whatever, like this is the thing. It's not that you cannot touch what Michael Broadbent said, but you can add things to it,
yeah.
and
Because I mean, everything is developing. So I mean, I don't think uh, any of these people actually think that they're saying something absolute. It's like a bit in history. There is no definite or absolute story. I mean, everything is interpretations of something that happened. So I think also in wine you can have an interpretation of a wine or a area, but it's not like you can say something that is the
no, it's
definitive.
and it's really hard because at a certain point you feel like you need to understand, because this is the thing, because in Italy we talk a lot, we don't produce systems. And
Yeah,
that's the reasons why, like many times when I'm going around or I'm going to, I don't do it anymore, but when I used to do like to PR events or stuff, there's not really like the goal of who organizes these things is not for someone to understand, it's just for someone to be there.
yeah,
Like most of the time when I am at press events in Italy, there's literally no goal. And when I'm working for consortios or I'm consulting for some producers, like the question that I ask is like, why are you doing this? Why are we spending this money? What is the end goal? And it's like, but I don't know. And that's why most times, this is the thing, they spend so much fucking money on Instagrammers, press, when you just need to call the greatest songs that you have in Italy, and that's it. That's it, And I do understand that, in Italy we have this. I don't know if for the non-Italian guys, there's this group called the Italian Wine Drunk Posting, and it's this guy like shitting on pretty much everyone, and only in Italy you can have that sort of thing, which is professional. Because for me, that's incredible. Like in England, we had the same thing, and it was from the Wine Bitch. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah, I know it.
So the Wine Bitch was really funny because not him was funny. It was just really funny how it come up, because like he was basically, this is the thing. They have the same like shit line going, but the Wine Bitch was like just one person saying something that he felt he needed to take out, and he was just like, some things were funny. There was a line that one line was, there's I'm trying to remember as much as I get, but there's an alternative universe. Yeah, but like it was great because one line went, there's an alternative universe in which Jancis Robinson is funny, Odd Clark is sober, and Tim Atkin is an honest man. And I had a chat on this with Tim, and it was like, because like he didn't give a shit. Like it was just like, it happens. People are like that. Instead, if you do it in Italy is different, because basically what Italian Wine Drunk Posting does is that everyone in Italy wants to say those things, but nobody has the balls, because winemakers, producers, consortiums, they believe in these fake new press and Instagrammers and influencers when the ROI is literally zero. So it's
that's also in Italy, that they still don't really understand the meaning between results and Instagram or social media. So they think that if you have all these people they see on Instagram, they're obviously going to make them sell wine too, but it doesn't really work like that. So,
and there's another thing.
But they prefer to pay money to these kind of people instead of doing something real that can have a lasting effect. And that is a very difficult thing to explain in Italy to wineries.
Yeah. You know what? I think that because it's so complex, the Instagrammers themselves, they don't know what to do. Like, I'll give you an idea. There's one guy that I actually in chats, because I know that many people don't like him. I'll see if I can find it and I'll tell you. It comes a lot in here we go. Trotter Wine, at the Trotter Wine, which is Andrea Zigrossi. I use this example a lot. So, for example, Andrea Zigrossi is what in the UK we will call luxury press.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for me, when you talk about luxury press, it does have sense. Like for me, Andrea Zigrossi, as a luxury marketer, is doing an amazing job, and I like the way he does it. The problem is that in Italy, people, and like I think he as well doesn't know where to collocate, because in Italy it's not really clear, but who hires him thinks to have him to talk about the wine rather than the luxury beyond the wine. So it gets insanely complicated. And that's because nobody is in a correct place, it's really easy for people to lose. So you have like a luxury press that becomes a wine specified press, which is something that like if Andrea would be a UK influencer, it would make probably twice the money, and everybody would respect him a bit more for the job that he does. So it's
he also calls himself a diary of a sommelier, so he's not really branded himself, I think, in the
that's another thing, because in Italy, that's another thing, the idea of being a sommelier, and in general, like I remember this thing. I was doing a night visit, right? And I was in Rimini, and I was chatting with my doctor, and he asked me like, what is your job? And I'm like, I'm a sommelier. And he's like, oh, so we're colleagues. And I'm like, no, fuck off. This is not how it works. You wake up and you check people's eye. I wake up and I fucking do 18 hours on the floor. That's really different. You're not my colleague. So the other problem is that the AIS uses a system in which he wants to call everyone a sommelier as soon as you finish the course. in the rest of the world, if you want to be part of the court of master sommelier, you need to justify that you're working in a restaurant. If not, I mean, you're not going to get in. So that's another thing. Like, that's because Italy, again, is completely wrong in the way that it thinks about things. And it seems like that, and also you need to take a bit of responsibility for yourself. Like, for example, I don't call myself a sommelier anymore. I'm a wine buyer. I'm a wine buyer and PR communicator. That's it. Like, this is what I do.
And, I mean, I never wrote sommelier because I'm not a sommelier. I always say I did a sommelier course, but I did it for the theory. I don't really care about, being a sommelier. But then people keep asking, so I have to write it, because otherwise, like, but if you're not a sommelier, and it's like, but it's irrelevant because I write about wine. So I mean,
those people are probably the first one that if they will be in a restaurant, they will never take your recommendation as a sommelier. So that's for me the funniest shit.
No, of course, and I mean, still in Italy, there's very few who work as a sommelier. It's not a profession.
So I think that's a great moment just to shout out to a couple of names. So if guys stop following, muscles and tits, and follow Simone Loguercio, Mr. Alterio, Walter Massman. There are like the greatest somms of Italy. Like, for me, I'm really happy, for example, that Trento Doc is taking Simone Loguercio and having him doing masterclasses. That's how you do it. And like the experiences that these guys have. Walter Meccia has a great experience. Why people and consortios and people around, they don't have him doing more masterclasses? Davide D'Alterio, fucking great, man. These people, I mean, you can like them or not, they're doing a good job. And these people, like,
he's very good. He's very knowledgeable.
Yeah. So shout out to the Soms. I've been a Som and I know how terrifying the job
is. But I think also because at least Davide I know well. I mean, I think he's one of the few, because I connected him with a winery I work with, so he did a live stream with them the other week.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized also that he's one of the few who actually says out loud that it's a continuous study, and you have to study every day to get somewhere. It's not just that you become a sommelier and you start working and that's it. But it's a continuous education, and it's continuous things to do, and you learn all the time, and you develop, and I think I mean, to me that is, I mean, having an academic background, that's what it's all about. You can never, I mean, you're never arrived. You always move forward. And
you know what it is that, like, I think that the old school press Italian, they don't understand what it means. So that's why I tend to don't trust, especially the old school. I have one rule with Carlo Macchi when I write on Wine Surf, which is that I don't answer to critics. He does it for me. So in that way, it's been really like a dad, because he knows that if I'm going out, I'm gonna fucking in 100%. I take those things really personal. I'll tell you that, for example, when I do interviews or podcasts, there's people that are getting really angry about sometimes things that I say. And what I do, most of them recently, they asked me, I need to phone you up and tell you how much I think you're shit. And then really, I'm more than happy to do it. If like there are so many people, because I want to know. I talk with loads of people that follow my work, and people that doesn't like at all what I do. I want to understand why people don't like it, and I want to have a conversation about it. Like I had recently a conversation about the fact that I said that Italy doesn't have a culture, a wine culture, which I think it is. And I said it corresponding to 67 Pall Mall as a job, because like there's not in Italy, generally there's not much interest. There's not much interest, and it's the reason why you can open a bar and be successful, but if you open a wine bar, you're gonna struggle a lot. But coming back to the original thing, the problem is that when you speak to people, you talk to press, they don't understand the amount of work there is behind stuff, and they don't understand that as a commercial things behind it, because like most of the press has been, let's say, the god from the press, these Italian priests of wine. They spoke a lot about it, and they took the commercial aspect out of it, which is, to be honest, one of the most important things, because if you don't sell the wine, you don't survive. That's it. And
no, that's true. I mean, I completely agree.
one of the first critiques that I had, I'm not gonna say who did it to me, but Carlo was really helpful on it. It was one of the gods, of the old school. And I was talking about the Court of the Master Sommelier, and he said at the time that it was absolute whack because there was no sense to it. What is the point of being a living encyclopedia? So I didn't answer because I thought it was really just a really stupid comment that comes from people that has no experience of how restaurant works. So shut up, like and especially not only you don't see what it means working in a high competitive and stressful, because like 6 Mall is not like a walk in the park. You go there and it's like 15 hours on fire. It's not like us, going like that all the time. It's literally fire. And it's probably one of the most exciting services you can do in your life, but it comes with, like loads of emotions going in. And I use always this example. I was at the bar once because like I didn't want to move that much. I was like, man, I worked so hard, like I didn't eat anything for 10 hours. And I was like, look, if I can, instead of doing the floor, I would like to do the bar. This couple came in and he said, we just been discovering the wine of Gers. Can you recommend me some? Now, the problem is that Gers is a district. And the way Gers works is that Gers is shared between multiple AOC in the southwest of France. One question might be, what are the AOC in which Gers is included? And what are they on the list? And how can you recommend them? Because they're going to be on the list and you need to show to that client or that member or that guest that you know what you're doing. And that comes only with that specific knowledge. So that's something that Italy will have a really hard time understanding, because barely people knows the DOCG and the major DOC and DOCGs of Italy, and they don't understand why you should study them.
No, that is true. That is very true.
Or I'm going in today. It's like this is more of a chat. Like
well, that's how I prefer it. So I mean, I don't want to have too structured. No, but I agree. I mean, I think either they know the highlights, the big points, or they kind of just know like Brunello, Piedmont, and whatever. So let's go over to, now I kind of lost the thread.
Gonna happen again.
But I mean, let's talk a bit about like your favorite. You have a favorite wine area, I guess, and I know that you also kind of like to pair music and wine. So I don't know. Let's talk a bit about that to not.
Okay, favorite wine area. Favorite wine area, it changes. It changes on how much research needs to be done at the moment. So for now, I'm working doing the first unprimer tasting of Bulgari outside of Italy, and they done it first time this year for the press. So this time is for the public as well. So and one thing that I noticed is that half of Bulgari, nearly more than half of Bulgari, is not imported. And for me, it's really fascinating. So right now, there's a thing that I get criticized all the time because I'm one of these guys that, I'm super Tuscan, thumbs up, and many people fucking hated it. And he's like, oh, that's not like, he drinks il bruciato, talks about il bruciato, family Antinori sucks, and, all the classic Italian haters, And what happened is this. I think it's really stupid say something like this. First of all, because every time you see the family Antinori, whoever makes wine, they should literally send them money and thank them because they done the job for everybody else. First thing. I mean, and the second thing is that technically, another thing that people don't understand about marketing is that they don't understand that it's really easy to project a change in the customer if you have already a ping pong game with them. So if they are throwing me a ball and the ball says Super Tuscan, I can throw it back saying Bulgari. But the problem is that, like, how they're going to react if I'm the one sending the ball. You know what I mean? So when the situation comes where something is already in the mind of the consumer, for me, it's way easier than to shape it. And that's a work that we said is going to take probably, 10 years to make this switch. And for us, doing like a Bulgari Unprimer where most of the producers are there, it's great because, like seeing Ornellaia or Gaia, like so involved in actually, saying, we want to represent Bulgari as a whole. Man, this is fucking amazing because nobody will do it. Many people wouldn't do it, especially like in Piedmont. It would be really hard for someone to do this. And in Brunello, it would be rare for somebody to do like something like this. And at these levels, and I think this is great. So this is like my main focus is Bulgari. I think that Bulgari still have, for certain bottles, the amount of like price quality that is the highest in Italy still. Like it's really small, and there are certain producers where the wine is really cheap for what you get. Le Gonnare from Fabio Motta is probably one of the greatest wine for the price that you could ever find. I was drinking recently Tenuta Sette Cieli, which is amazing. And
I'm actually going there in May, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing. So that's a thing. Wine and music is another pair of things. Like, because like there's many people doing it. There's a lot of people doing it. It pisses me off a lot that many people are doing it, because I think it doesn't pay respect to the music, and that's the thing that really pisses me off. In Italy, many people are doing it because they think it's cool. Many people are doing it because they need to find new ways to talk about wine because they are too boring. Like people are not finding ways to talk about wine that is interesting, so they turn into those things. And even the history of wine and music pairing, which is fairly Italian, Scarpellini, and especially my absolute favorite one. There's a couple of books, is Vini e Vinili, which are probably the greatest pairing ever made and are completely random. I think it's incredible. There's only one thing. The things were like, is really hard already to talk about the wines. I think it's not worth putting the music in. And I know, because, like, music is really complex. And I'll tell you why. The difference is, well, like, I can take whoever and change their mind, because wine is wine. It's a bloody drink at the end. We can put it like at the top, like, oh, DRC, but deep down, when you're looking at it, it's just wine. Like, you don't have a wine bank memory that is so deep in your subconscious. You just drink it and you remember about it. You have some emotions through wine, but it's not something that will shape your head. Like, for example, there's a reason why there's music therapy and not wine therapy, in that sense.
Well, also wine therapy would be like you get loaded.
Yeah, there's someone doing it, I heard, but so the things are like, when we do wine and music, it takes I'll tell you, just do one event of wine and music. My preparation is minimum 6 months.
Well, I have never played on professional level, but I did play music before, and when I was in Sweden, but instruments, I can agree with you to a certain point, because I think that there's a lot of people who pair them, with songs on YouTube, so they would choose like a rock song or whatever, and there I agree that it's probably just a way to find, something more fun to write about, and then now I see that there's also an event where they try to focus the experience of wine through music, and then they always choose this kind of classical music that is very specific and already very difficult to understand for a person. So if you have a classical concert with the harp, it's still a very limited audience, and it's an experience that for me, so I used to play the trumpet, so it's like,
okay,
it feels like it's an instrument that you already have to understand, and you also have to understand the music and the background of the music. So I don't know. There, I think, it makes no sense. Why would you experience wine more because you listen to a harp if you don't understand the music?
Yeah, if you think about trumpet, let's talk about trumpet for a bit. Like, and you just go like, okay, let's do that. Someone needs to, pair wine with trumpet music. Okay, so like, let's keep it to jazz. If somebody's gonna do that, I want that person to tell me straight away a couple of things. One, if they understand what it means and what it was, the movement from Miles Davis to Freddie Hubbard, or the movement from Chet Baker to Arturo Sandoval, or the experimentation of the 70s, or all the major techniques of the 80s, and how the trumpet lost against the saxophone in fusion music, and it came back through, the second note, because there are two, the other Avishai Cohen. that's deep shit, like, and you need to know them really specifically, because when you talk about it, when you pair like, for example, when I pair wine with music, I talk about the music. For the wine, Richard Banfield, Master Wine Speaks, because for me, when I do a statement, I need a statement that is as strong. And there's another thing. The point of music is that you need to understand the psychology of music when you can speak about music. So one example, it would be like, okay, this is an example that we did. So
Yeah.
We Are the Champions from Queen is a tune about basically winning, right? But
Yeah.
what happened is that, like, okay, there are, let's say, I'm gonna go really like basic without like adding. There are two types of chords, major and minor. Okay, if you're giving me a tune that is called "We Are the Champions," what I'm going to think is that the chords are predominantly major, but
Yeah.
instead the minor chord in "We Are the Champions" are basically in a ratio of 3-1. So, and most of the there's one thing, especially when there's like the "We Are the Champions, we are the champions," that one is what we call a two going to a one minor melodic movement shift.
Mm.
That stuff is really complex, and the reason why they use that stuff can go back to to some of the classics like "Days of Wine and Roses," "The Girl from Ipanema," and you need to know where it comes from. You need to know who used it, and then you compare it with the wine. You know what I mean? It needs
Mm.
to be deeper, because like if you're trying to get, when you're analyzing harmony and the history of sounds, it's like when you're analyzing, I don't know, Rocca di Castiglione. I'm going for Rocca di Castiglione, but I want to know what is the active limestone content in the in the soil. Because if you're talking about music at level 10, then you need to talk about the wine at level 10. But if you're talking about the music at level 1 and at the wine even at level 5, for me, you're already wasting time. And to be honest,
No, I
the
agree. I
quantity
agree.
is something that doesn't like, I really hate it. It needs like, and another thing is there are professional around. I think that like Scarpellini, I think that Scarpellini is a professional. Let's have some professional doing it. Let's have Charles Spence doing it. You know what I mean? So even me, I sometimes I'm scared about doing it, because
No,
I
I
had
would
this.
never do it because I don't have enough knowledge on any longer on the music side. So
It just takes time, but what I always be scared, like I do believe that quantity is more important than quality, especially right now. You need to put content out. Doesn't matter, you're gonna get good, but if you don't get in it, you're not gonna understand how it works. And unfortunately, this world doesn't have, the new YouTube, the Instagram. They don't let you take your time. You just need to go through it. But when it comes to these sort of things, I always treat it with a huge amount of respect. And
mm.
it's a deep thing. And the wine as well. I can be funny and I can swear as much as I can. I have deeply a lot of respect for every wine that I try to drink.
that's that's a good thing. So no, I mean, of course, I mean, but I think it also depends on the music. I mean, you also have to know your audience there because obviously you can't pair with a like for I don't know whatever music. If you would pair something with the 70s like Credence, I mean, then you have to have an audience that knows that kind of music. Or if you would uh, pair it with Miles Davis, I mean, you would have to have an audience that knows that kind
You
of
know,
music too.
it's funny because it's not really like that. This is the thing. This is what I discovered. There's an exercise, okay? There's the famous exercise about wine and music. So if anybody is thinking about doing wine and music events, now you got one thing at least to hold on to. So the first exercise was a Charles Spence exercise. I criticized this exercise to my good friend Barry Smith for a long time, but I think it's still really useful. So what it does is that he uses a Sauvignon Blanc from, I don't remember if it's like Sancerre or a Touran, a normal Touran, like a supermarket Touran or stuff like that. And you have people listen to different kinds of classical music. The example that I usually use is Jardin sous les pluies of Debussy, and vocalized by what's his name? Great romantic piano player. It's gonna come up anyway. And
This
this is the thing. The idea of this. I'm sorry that I cannot play the guitar. I'll give you an idea if I can sing it. The idea is that I think it's Rachmaninoff. So
Okay.
Rachmaninoff thinks of music in a closed system. Closed system means that you have a bass that plays a note and a melody on top. So if my bass goes doom, melody goes da dia do da boom. So
Yeah.
you have two different entities. Those two entities are coming together. Debussy, or certain bits of Mahler, or especially Bach, they will think about this completely different, because what they will think is that between the bass and the melody, there's nothing much. There's literally an open system. So what they will do is that they will split up the chord and create a cascade of upper fifths. So it will be 1 5 9 third connecting to the top line. So the boom da dia buda will become do da da ba do dia buda. So basically you will have like a scale that goes up in fifths, so it creates an open system and then it connects it. So the idea of the pairing is that that basically you will have the wine will change. The wine will change if you listen to the different things. So that's for me what is the craziest thing, and it works.
True. That
It
is true.
it absolutely works. The problem is how it works. What Charles Spence said is that there's a scientific way to literally pre-assess the answer. Instead, there is
Really?
not, because music is way more personal than wine. So you can have a pre-response on the wine. Not even in that case, it's not really that precise, but you cannot have it on music, because as soon as somebody knows Debussy, they will actually go for that. And it works in the same way with wine. It works in this way. When you're doing a wine list, or you're doing especially a wine shop, one of the first rule of marketing of a wine shop is try to understand your demographics and understand what kind of bottle they might already know. So this is how it works. If you're entering in a shop and you see at least one or two bottles that you already know, you will think that the complete list is great. Music works exactly in the same way. If I will mention something that you already know, the wine will change according to what you already know. So it's really complex, really, really complex. That was really,
Okay,
really
so Evelyn, she just got in there. She has a Facebook group called Fine Wines Buzz, and she also collaborates with Pix Wine.
right.
So
Okay.
she just asked if you're a musician, and yes, you are a musician.
Okay, yeah. You will have some time to go back. Yeah, I mastered in jazz at the Trinity Lab. I mean, jazz guitar.
But let's go over before we end here to talk a bit about the view on Italian wine in the world. How do you
Mhm.
see the view on Italian wine in the world, and how to move forward? I know you have a lot of opinions.
Well, it's really easy, because like the next 10, 15 years, they should be Italian labeled. So I truly think that this is how I think. How I think is that we as Italy, we are playing a football game. We have the balls with us. We have the football with us, and there's no goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Okay, somehow we manage to throw the ball out every single time. And I can tell you specific examples of marketing and stuff that they have absolutely no sense. They are an absolute waste of money, and they
Yeah.
are not like useful to anything at all. And
No.
I can hardly tell you what is something that has been done for the export market for fine Italian wines. I'm not talking about, because like that sort of like supermarket stuff is going great. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, maximum respect. That's another thing. Most people think that I'm a dick against GDO, like most Italian press, because they think like, oh, it's fine wine, he's Italian, so surely like all the people before him, because critically many people are like anti-GDO. I am
Mm.
actually a great supporter of doing great supermarket wines, and it's something that if you do, especially like if you see the quality of Bordeaux from the range from uh, 10 €15 supermarket price, it's great. They're
Mm.
killing it. There's one thing that they do every year with Master of Wine Smellers called Bordeaux Top 15, which I judge sometimes. And it's great because every time we go there, we're just like, man, these wines are great for the price. This is great stuff. In Italy, we don't have that. It's really like, when people are thinking about supermarkets, but I think there is a future for sort of like quality Italian supermarket wines. Taking this apart, um, I'll give you an idea. Like many people have no idea how to create an investment wine in Italy. Zero. Okay.
Yeah.
They don't believe in young people. So, for example, for me, the fact that like, and women, as you know, so like we are like, I remember we had a chat with Federica Randazzo, and this is how it works. Like I am too young to speak about wine. So in Italy, nobody takes me seriously. In the UK, I have many people who buys wines because I say so, or because Federico Mozza says so, and it's just like we start collecting this because we are excited. Like we project an excitement to the wine, and it works. In
Yeah.
Italy, I don't think it ever happened apart from the magazine and everything because there's like, but people wants to change, but we have to fight way, way stronger. And so I'm too young to say how wine
No, I'm
works.
a
But
I'm a foreigner and I'm a woman, so it's
boom,
already
you're done. Boom,
uphill.
click both. In Italy, this is the thing. Like when I read about things like about how that you need to be more young, that you're a woman, so you're not good enough. In the UK, this shit never happens. Like to be honest, all my most of my bosses were girls. Beatrice Bessi taught me most of the shit that I know.
Mhm.
And for me, this is something that never entered in my line, and also in music. I played with so many female lead singers and lead musicians. I had great times. It's something that never came up into my mind. And it's really bad because in Italy we take this thing like, even I don't know, it's so random. Like when a scandal or whatever of these kind of chats are happening, in the I'll give you an example. I'll tell you also what is an account that you guys should follow because she's great. um Give me 1 second and it's gonna come out. Silk and Coop, which is Laura Mills from Canada.
Yeah,
Like
I already know
she's
her.
yeah, she's doing like one of those chats about how women are using like their body to promote wines. And if you see the level of the discussion is really high. In Italy we will never have that sort of like high level conversation. And it's taken from every single point. Like from the point of freedom of doing whatever you want, from the point of how the marketing should approach it. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? How it looks towards something else? But you know is like having a proper discussion on it. It's not just like, oh, fuck off. And it's like the Italians are taking it. It's really, we're just going for the sake of nothing. Most people, they want to create a news just to get more followers, but nobody really cares about anything, even because like, that's something that really pisses me off because then there's no really, there's no chat about it. It's something really bad, I think. It's too marketing based, if you know what I mean. And
Mhm.
so Italy has a huge problem. The first problem is that people like winemakers, they don't study. And I'm not saying study making wine. I mean studying what's happening. So
Yeah.
I remember when, I don't know if I talked about this before, but when I was a music student, I was studying business with one of the managers of Foo Fighters. And he had
Okay.
this class in which you had to stand up in the room and you had to Google your name on Google. And if you didn't come up, he would just look at you and like, you don't fucking exist, go back. And he used to call you every single week asking where the fuck is your website. It was really raunchy, way more than me, Irish guy. And winemakers needs to think the same way. The times in which, oh my god, I am a winemaker, I make a really good wine. No, that's not for me. Being a musician wasn't about making music, it was about like self-promoting myself. Wine is exactly
Yeah.
the same. And when you're self-promoting yourself, then you need to think about, okay, who is going to talk about my wine? Because it's not like, you need to understand who is talking about what and what is the level and the quality of it. And the thing is, like, we know, like, we, us from the business, we know when a major winemaker is calling one of those really low level influencer instead of a professional. Why are you spending all this money on these people when you could call sommeliers that are literally busting their asses off to sell your wine? Is absolutely disgusting, and that thing rarely happens in the UK. I can tell you, and even in America, that doesn't happen that much. Or there's a clear distinction between luxury and wine. Okay, because if
Well, I mean, they have
if
the thing with the thing with the influences do happen, but the difference is that they're clear on the results and the goals they want with paying an influencer, but it doesn't exclude the other basic marketing they have to do themselves, which is a
Exactly.
long-term project. Because I think the thing is also that at least when I look at Italy, is that they want quick fixes. So they
Yeah.
think if they pay like twice an influencer, he or she will take them to sell loads of wine, and that's it. But if you tell them let's do this for 3 years to create visibility, to create to build your self promotion, your brand, and it's like, no, we're not interested. It's too much money. But they can pay the same amount of money to one person who may give them a bit of visibility for like 2 weeks. That's
Yeah,
what I never understand, because it's like when they have to do something long term, it's like, no, we don't have the money. They have to do
this is the thing, right? So my thing is that we are in a moment in which the wine world is exploding and many people don't have the money to buy specific wines. Let me give you an
yeah,
idea. Okay, so Burgundy is going down. Where is
yeah,
Verdicchio? Where is Soave? There's none. I'll tell you what is around. South Africa Chenin Blanc New Scene and Sonoma Chardonnay. Pinot Noir is going up. Where is Schiava from Santa Maddalena? Where is, high altitude Sangiovese? You know what there is?
yeah,
Santa Rita Hills Pinot Noir, UK Pinot Noir, fucking brilliant. Simpson, Gasborn, that's great stuff. There are some Austrian reds now into the battle.
yeah.
Bordeaux prices are inconsistent. Great Time Premier this year, they marketed really well, but really inconsistent. The market doesn't know where to go. Where is Bulgari? Where is Brunello?
No,
Where is guys? Think about this. Where is Barolo? If you look at the prices of Barolo compared to what they sell, where is Barolo? Right?
yeah, no, it's
Why Mascarello hasn't reached an Armand Rousseau kind of status? Why, we are buying modernist thing, like, because like we're just seeing the price, but Barolo doesn't have a representatives. Like they just drink Barolo. They're not drinking Cruz. They don't give a shit. Like the real reason is completely out. Actually, this is really funny. In all those years, the first one that did single vineyard tastings for the public is me and Federico. We chat with everyone. Nobody did Sciarretta before. Nobody did Rocca di Castiglione. It is ridiculous. They don't care. They literally don't care. So to be honest, are the wines at the same level? We're getting there. And there are a few problems. The problems are, and I'm making it now, the wines are there, okay, and the appellations are there. The marketing is shit, but we can work on it. Now there are a few problems. One is the natural wine scene. This crap needs to stop. Like the thing that, like, we're not talking about the quality of the wine, but its ethic is drawing away major investments and major buyers. And you understand how important it is, but that stuff needs to stop. Like most of the times now, everybody knows that to make a great wine, that's how you need to go. I don't think we need more push. We just need people that studies. Again, if you're a winemaker and you study, that shit doesn't happen. So I gave that thing for granted. All the job that San Giorgi did with Portos was amazing, and we need to be grateful. But at the same time, it created a bit of a monster that is out there. The second bit, which is still connected to the press, is that we need to stop also this idea of, like, the small versus the big one. That stuff is bad. That stuff is really bad. And the point is that, like, most people are drinking wines. Again, we have a sort of an ethic thing. Just make a precise calculation and then make your own things about the wine. Because especially if you have a sommelier, kind of mind, the first thing is like, where are we going to put this wine in? And I think that is really way better, let's say, quick fix to have about a wine, rather than saying, because like there are wines that I don't like, but I know where they're going because they're good. So we need to focus on making good wines. And the problem of good wines in Italy now is that people are thinking about politically where to put themselves. And
Yeah.
because of that, the wines are suffering. There are many wines that they want
That's
to
not
be
only wine. I mean, you always have to think about if you're.
absolutely. But in Italy, I think this thing like, now is this run, this is no sulfites. You're drinking these wines that are amazing, and after 2 minutes, they smell of a dead rat. And it's just like, man, here you just needed a tiny bit of sulfites. You know what I mean? It's just like that people don't understand, or they don't try, or they don't care. It's ridiculous. So that's the first thing. Like, stop this political thing about wine. Just make good wine. Study how the greatest
Yeah.
wines are made. Take a fucking car, go to Bordeaux, go to Burgundy, go to Swartland. Travel, for God's sake, just travel. And the second thing is longevity. People are not saving bottles. You need to study on yourself. Like you really need to go for this sort of thing, in which you need to start saving up at least 1/5 of your production. I will save half of my production if I were a winemaker, and I know that you
I
cannot
think
do it.
that
But
is a problem, yeah, because I mean, I have now some wineries that producers I know. I mean, and they start to set up an own wine library of old vintages, but a lot of them don't. They just sell everything, and then they don't have anything to show for what they did.
no, ridiculous. And then you're drinking these wines like Pecorino can age. Verdicchio probably can age even more than Chardonnay.
Verticale has a
You
long
know,
potential. Yeah.
but people are not believing in that. People are not believing in that, and because they don't believe in it, everything is out. And the third thing, I think, which is the biggest problem. I was chatting with a producer today, and consistency. Italy, and when we do, I was rereading my magazine Verticale to check some stuff or mistakes or where I can get better at writing. And there's one thing that came into mind straight away. The history of the Italian vertical tastings are history of a trial and error. Like, nobody starts believing in what they do, and they keep on changing, mostly according to the market. So it's incredible how much, and I am really critical about this, because then people are just like, oh my God, a medium pepper is so expensive. Yeah, because it's fucking consistent and it's great. So the problem is that, like, if you can put yourself in creating consistent products, then you can tune them lightly. Like, if you see that you're doing small mistakes, but I think that even if it's really bad and people are just like having this conversation a long time, and it's like, oh, okay, you should just, showcase the terroir. Because, that's a pretty shitty argument to me. Because are you saying that Mouton, Lafite, and Latour are not showcasing terroir? Because I think that those wines are showcasing terroir way more than all these natural wines we're around now. Way more. Because you can blind taste them. You cannot blind taste these other wines.
But
So
the thing with natural wines, I think it's not so much about terroir or being, it's more a bit about being local, but it's also more about wanting to be in this kind of trend that is going on. Like,
exactly. But at the same
you
time,
have to do maceration, even if it's not necessary.
exactly. But you know what is the point? The point is that, like, these winemakers are the first one that change according to to what is happening. And on a side is good, but that means that we don't believe anymore in what we're doing. This is for me something really
No,
strong.
I
Like,
have this producer I met at the wine fair, and he was going to this natural wine fair in Sweden, in Malmo, where I'm from. And he was like, "Oh, you're not growing there?" I was like, "No, I'm not growing." And then it turned out, I think, that he actually makes one or two of his wines to appeal specifically to the Scandinavian natural wine taste. And I said, well, "Why would you do that?" I mean,
exactly.
and I tasted the wine, and I was just like, "This is so boring, this wine, because it communicates nothing. It's just, it was made in the right, natural, trendy way. So I'm sure it's it's
Yeah,
very
but
appreciated, but it's also very narrow audience, and it doesn't really give him something as a winery, I think."
it's not about like it's not about also because sometimes it feels like that I'm against natural wines. I'm not against natural wines. The point is like I don't like what people are marketing in that way, because you can tell that they're just doing marketing. So in reality, those people that are like, most of the times that I'm like with someone that speaks a lot about natural wine, what I at the end come out with is that they are way more business savvy than all the others, but without knowing anything. So it's really doubling to me, because like I'm feeling like close to close to the wall, and I don't know how to express myself anymore, because every single step in the wine production is completely wrong. Because like people are really criticizing what somebody has an idea about the wine, but I think it's really important, because like if you have an idea about the wine, like you tasted it, it's not about making it every time the same wine. Clearly vintages are going to change it, but when you have an idea about what you want to do, if you want to do macerated wine, you need to explain to me why you want to make it. What is the technical reason? Why do you think that will work? And that technical reason needs to be one, data proven, two, idea proven, three, restaurant business proven. So, like, this is a macerated wine because the grape has this boom, 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 boom in the grape, and I want to extract this exact amount, and I want to keep it this amount in this specific container for this reason. Then, because it's connected to not only the grape, but because this terroir specifically work in this way, then this wine works really well with this sort of food, which is probably local and it works like this, but it needs to have a significance. When you go and talk with Corrado Dottori, it tells you exactly every single reason why he oxidized the wines in that way. And that's what I like, because
Yeah,
you
no,
will
I
have a
agree.
conversation about natural wine. You will have a conversation about like what is wine, which is way more interesting. This is what people should do. And
Yeah,
this is for me the three main problems of Italy. Like this sort of like big against small, this no wine archive whatsoever, and three, there's no consistency. So when you're thinking about where the world is going, these are three things that Italy will suffer, and it needs to be literally fixed right now, because the future can speak Italy, and I believe in it. Like I'm the biggest believer that in 5 years people will drink way more fine Italian wines than French wines if
no, I agree.
people understands how to talk about Italian wines, because we are behind. We're really behind, and we are unfortunately really Italian, and is sometimes seen from our, let's say, outsiders, is sometimes slightly disgusting.
Yeah. No, I see your point and I understand it. No, I agree. I think that already Italian wine has moved a lot forward compared to just 5, 6 years ago. But I mean, now I mean in general. I don't know. I don't mean the main brands that were always moving forward. But yeah, no, these are certainly three problems. So I just want. There was a question from Evelyn. She had something about the UK post-Brexit question. If you know anything about
uh,
it?
I'll tell you, this is how I see it. Um, the hard bit about Brexit uh, is that it changes too fast and we don't know what to do with it. So there are a few things. One, I think the VAT or the tax is going to go up again. I think that there's going to be a new paper to load. But I'm going to be honest. If you have a freight forwarder, they usually take care of most of it.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of a problem for the winery than for who buys it. So the thing is that the problem for me is that most of the shippers needs to update themselves. The problem is the UK is not really given like many information about how things are going to be going. You know what I mean? So there's still um, I don't see it as big of a problem as many other people sees it, because this is how I think about it. The UK post Brexit hopefully will give. I'll give an idea now. If you need to work in the UK, you need at least to earn, I think, 24K or 26K. Let me tell you this: 26K was a lot back in the day. if you worked in a restaurant. I know
Yeah.
that people were working for 18K. So if you're washing dishes in the future, you will get 26K, which sometimes you had in London managers that will get in 26K. And I'm joking. I'm not joking. So right now, everything went up. So if everything goes up, like let's say that Brexit really brought in that sense, and these are really long chat that we will need like 3 hours to get
Yeah.
into. But I can tell you that
So it
most
says
prices,
that's
um, well, it's not overblown the import nightmare from Jansis. The thing is that like since that article, it changed it already 5 or 6 times. Like since that article, they took off one paper at a certain point, they reattached another paper. Now there's a raise. It's the real nightmare now is more about understanding what is going to happen. But what I think is that is not going to stop people to drink. And another reality is that is a problem that doesn't touch as much fine wine as supermarket wines. Because adding 1 or 2 pounds on a supermarket wine is substantial rather than, let's say, that there are people that are buying, DRC for 18K. If it costs 18 and 2 pounds K, it's gonna be like, yeah, I mean, whatever, 2 pounds. The problem is when you're going to the supermarket, or because I can tell you that most of the places now, because this is the thing, I'll tell you, the restaurants here are like overcharging like everywhere. It's
yeah.
crazy. So that overcharge, let's say that sometimes you will find wines that are 60 pounds, that are like 15 quid. So, and when you tasted them, they're still as good as to say, yeah, it is worth 60 pounds, which, to be honest, most of South Africa's new selection is. Um, so the point is that it's really hard to keep up the date because, there's so much work to do. And to be honest, the real problem, I don't think of Brexit, I don't think is the paper, is finding people to work. There's no one around. That's the real problem. And if what I'm thinking is, if I were like now, a kid, and I want to go for wine, I will probably stay in Italy rather than, because on one way, like if you're now, I'll give you an example. If you're now in Rimini, fucking hell, you've got Enrico Gori doing his all, like his old fucking revolution with Necessaire, Fermenta Enoteca, and Daluccio, which is now probably one of the most, batshit crazy restaurants that you will find in Italy. There's people traveling all over the places to see him. Like you see the Umbrian restaurant, revolution that is happening
Yeah.
now. And, this is great. This is crazy, So I think that right now to be in Italy is great. But I think the only thing that is needed is a new approach because the sommelier needs to be really, it needs to start be taken seriously. And they're not like, unfortunately, there are not many professionals in Italy that I will consider strong enough to have a chat with whoever works at 69 Pall Mall. That's my current problem.
No, but also, I mean, the few restaurants I've been to where there was a sommelier, I mean, now I'm not saying the main 3-star Michelin or 2 or 1, but they don't really know that much. And,
No.
I
No, no,
mean, I
no.
know more, and then they want to give me a wine that I really don't want to drink. So,
And like most of the times, I'm gonna be honest, but I receive a lot of emails about people asking me to do wine lists, and I'm like, okay, let's have a conversation. Every time that I tell them, they just go like, no, 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 that doesn't exist. Like nobody's ready for a change. I'll tell you this, at least. And like even considering, because like one of my rules is you need to stay as local as possible and having the smallest wine list of all times. That's it. These are
yeah,
my two main rules. If you have, this is how usually one wine list that I'll do will work. We'll always have one Charmat method and one traditional. It will have 4 whites, 4 reds, 2 orange, and 2 dessert wine. That's my first bit. First rule, as local as possible. 2, stock up vintage. Like every year, you buy twice of what you sell.
mm,
Then you stock up the rest and you slightly increase the price.
mm,
That. And if you can store for 1 year, that wine is already unique because nobody else have it.
That's true.
you know,
That's
and
really
he
good.
doesn't take anything. Like you can even buy it for yourself, store it, and resell it to you as a restaurant, or having a third party. You can pay the wine producer and ask him to store it. You know what I mean? For 1 year.
But actually, the Tabarini does that in Montefalco, in his
Exactly.
winery. So he lets local restaurants to have a space to store well his wines, but also others, I think, if they want.
Yeah. So that's one thing, you know. And just by doing that, it shows respect to the area where you are, and you know, and to vintage collection. And also, you know, like if I were from Umbria and I tasted that 2019, I think it was 2019, which for me is one of the greatest rosé ever made. It's literally a Bartolo Mascarello rosé.
Yeah,
I would have bought shitloads and start selling it at 78 euros.
yeah.
That's it. In Italy, we're missing these sort of statements, you know, because we don't have the balls to go for it and say this is worth it. And
Mm.
it's a shame. It's a shame because you know, like I'm spending lots of money on wines that I don't like because I just want to study, because I just want to understand how they are. And you know,
Mm.
like you go, it's just ridiculous, you know. And there are so many things that are great, and it's just like, come on, just give it the space that they deserve. Whereas one thing, I'm gonna cite another name, Francesco Cioria from San Domenico in Imola. He took the old vintages of Corallo Nero and started putting them at really high prices. Fuck it, that's a statement. That's the greatest statements. So, and that's another thing. Um, Winemakers needs to realize that the new Parker scores are sommelier prices.
Mm.
That's another thing that they didn't understand. Who will decide are suppliers, wine buyers, and somms. The press will eventually die. Nobody has anything interesting to say.
I
There's
was
no.
going to ask you about what you think about the importance nowadays about of guides such as the Wine Advocate. And
I don't follow any of them. I literally don't follow any of them because you know that for every single one of them, there's a trade event where the winemakers needs to pay.
I know, I know.
That's it. You know, the only one that I like slightly is the Canter. I
Yeah,
like the Canter
but they also
because
have another approach. I mean, they don't.
they have the same approach that we use in Verticale. When you're looking at it, you have the singular score of three people plus
Mm.
the different scores. Okay. So what I like the most about my job right now is that sometimes they call Ronan around, and when we buy, he sends us his Excel files with his tastings. And
Mm.
that's great because this is the real shit. Like I treasure that thing more than anything else because it comes from real. You know what I mean? When you have a tasting, like, and you see, like, when you have a tasting of, and you see also in the country, you can see it. You know that like Italy is not where it should be compared to Spain, for example. In Spain, when you have a Spain the counter thing, you have Ronan, you have Tim Atkin, you have even in Greece, you have
Mm.
like Terry Candilis and all these people. Like it's really different also like how we think about our country. Not that they're not good, but like there's not many Italians that that are doing this panel tasting, or people that are around the UK that sells to restaurants. Like instead, most of the other countries are like people that have been around the market for a long time. They have
Mm.
Aldo, which I like a lot.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, we are behind. Like, as a country, we are really behind. We're really behind. And you see, like, when there's a special on Rioja, we're like 6 or 7 pages. The pictures of the bottle are huge. But if we're doing Verdicchio, it's like 2 pages with like you need the fucking length in the comments. And like, so if this is it, it's not the counter's fault because the counter works with what they give to them. And this is
Yeah.
another thing, like I remember that I was chatting to someone about Soave, and there's one thing about Soave that I don't remember specifically what it is, and they were critical about like, oh, why are they saying this about Soave? Because this is what you're telling them. Because this is what you're doing. If you augment your area of production and is super messy how you do it, and people don't understand, we're gonna just write it because it's not
Yeah.
Italy. You cannot buy people out.
No, no, that's
That's
true.
the reason. So
Mm.
to be honest, I like the guides in the sense that I like most people singularly that writes into them. I like Antonio Bocco. I like, even if it's not my style, I really like Paolo De Cristofaro. I really like Giorgio Melandri. I like, there's loads of people that I like. I like Federica Randazzo. I don't like the guides. I just don't like the idea that all the ideas, like the free ideas of one human being, they become suddenly a whole, because you cannot tell me really that you have 20, 30, 40, 50 people that they're all thinking in the same way when they're judging, as an identity. So
That's
when
true.
when the score is given, there are some politics involved, but there's also like a really weird meter of consideration. So
Mm.
that's why I like way more how the structure of the counter of IWC is made. Because, first of all, it takes in account who is at the table. In Italy, uh, Gambero Rosso, but mostly you don't know who is scoring it. You know what I mean? You know slow wine, but you don't know who is really scoring it. And there's another thing that Antonio Tomacelli came out. Back in the day, this guy had a really great responsibility, which was pushing the new in, discovering things. When Melandri went to Modigliana first, he had to discover the whole thing. The famous pre-crew of Modigliana are a study of Giorgio Melandri. That's
Yeah,
what
I
was
know.
the responsibility. The responsibility of a critic was that when Robert Parker came to Bordeaux, everybody hates it, but I always recommend to read the book Noble Rot. You can buy it for £2, £2. It costs
Mm.
more the shipping than the actual book. And you can read about Robert Parker, which is probably the greatest critics of all times. The absolute greatest. There's no chance. If you ask me who is the greatest, absolutely Robert Parker, second in line with Michael Broadbent. For me, they were great. But Parker came there and he created a vintage out of nowhere because they thought it was shit. When he came in 82, the French were not convinced about 82. That's great. That's incredible, So he literally created that stuff. For me, even Mark de Grazia, Mark de Grazia is not a critic, but he literally created Barolo. I think he created it way more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And the reason behind it is that there's a study, there's a consideration. Right now, why these guys are not talking about Modigliana? Why are not talking about Radda? Why are we not talking about, Modigliana, Mamoyada? Why these things are not considered? Why people are not like putting an active interest and say, whoa, I'm going to be the guy that is going to put a stamp on it. And think about this, the job is already done. You have associations of producers that are giving you the job already done. What else do you need? What else do you need? And the fact that, like, for example, two things. No Gambero Rosso for Mamoyada. No slow wine for a Sangiovese from Modigliana. Guys, come on. Where have you been? Where have you been? Where
No,
have
that's
you been?
true. That is
Where
true.
are the new Bulgar revolution? Where is the new Verdicchio scene? And when you think, like, because you need to think as, not only thinking about the wine and a blind tasting, just put it into a perspective. What is Fattoria Nani into the consideration? What is, it's, I don't know. I really don't know. And it's really bothering me because I had a moment in which I thought that it was one of my dreams to do one of these guides. I had a moment in which if somebody asked me what would be your dream, would be like, I would really love to do Gambero Rosso for Emilia Romagna. I also just probably Romagna, but I don't see any interest in there because, to be honest, apart from is really hard because, for example, you need to drink according to the crew, according to the section. You need to know a bit more, on that stuff, and I don't think I'm even able to do it in that respect because I don't have the story to do it. Because it's really hard. There are maybe some producer that doesn't like me, so I don't have access to that. It's tough. I can do it probably for Modigliana. I could do it straight away, but
No, Modigliana, yes, but they're also a bit ahead.
it's tough. It's tough, and for me, it's really hard because people have been talking to us many times. It's like, guys, you need to start your own guide. You need to do your scoring, and I like doing scoring if I'm getting paid. Absolutely, that's the thing. But what is the point? The point is that, like, I am way more concerned about communication. Like, I think that my job now is way more. I do prefer way more talk to a consortium, coming up to a plan and just execute it within reason. So I'm always making clear, if there's a job with a winery and everything, that if I don't like the wine, there's no way I'm going to work. And if we work with like with everyone, we make sure many people don't have the quality to play a game. You know, if you want to play the World Cup, you're not going to take the shittiest players and put in there. With all due respect, you know, but
No,
like
that's
there's a real difference. And to be honest, is most of the time when you're seeing what is the situation, so much can be done because the money are there. The money are
yeah.
there. Is how they are spent. And you know,
No, that I'm completely agree on that. That the spending is not
it's crazy. It's crazy.
reasonable because they spend on things that have no often have no value.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people spending on keychains. Why? Why are you spending on keychains? What the fuck is
Yeah, but
that?
also spending on paper material that you
And
hand
then
out,
you
and
ask
then
them,
people just throw it away because nobody can bring stuff.
let's have a quick game. Tell me an appellation in Italy.
Um,
Whatever.
Taurasi.
Okay, I'm googling it now. First of all, I don't see the website of Taurasi in the first page of Google. There's none. So that's already a good start, right? So
No, because they call
you go
themselves
there.
Consorzio Irpino or something.
Exactly. But as Taurasi di OCG, whatever consortium you have, you need to have a website for fucking Taurasi di OCG. If people are studying it all over the world, how is possible that you don't have a website? You see what I mean? So if I will get a job with Taurasi, the first thing will be we're gonna make a fucking website for people in China, for people in Mumbai, for people in Sweden, for people in because that's the thing, you know, like you have no idea how many times people, SOMs, suppliers, they come to me and Federico asking for really basic shit that they're not in there. It's ridiculous. And the point is, why nobody cares? Because nobody cares. And that's the reality. You know, the reality deep down is that nobody in Italy cares. That's it.
Yeah, but that's also like, often they would have a page, but it's only Italian. And then you say, well, you should translate it because you have to have it in English at least, so I can help you. No, but then we will do Google Translator because it's not worth it to pay for a translation. I was like, and then
Exactly.
they put Google Translator and you understand half of it, and the other one is like, I can help you to revise it if you want. No, but why is that needed? You understand what it? And I said, no, you don't understand. It looks unprofessional.
You know,
But
it's
these are things that I don't understand. They don't want to invest in the smallest, most important things there are.
because like what is the thing that we do all the time. Do you want, if you give me 1 second, I'll show you something like in preview, so because I think it might be interesting, so you see a bit of like
Okay.
this marketing in action. Give me 1 second. um, so this is so we can have a chat about this. This is our new leaflet for the Unpremiere of Bulgari 2019.
Cool.
So I can show you how we've done it and how it works. So what we've done, because like everything that I'm going to show is really stupid, like it's really basic stuff, but it makes a difference. So I mean, first page we did like the classic in front of San Guido. It looks cool, people likes it because like there's a thing that I don't like the poetry in wine. I think is absolute shit. But most buyers or collectors that love Tuscany, they love his connection, they love his Carducci thing. So we thought it was good to do it. This is the core of the leaflet. The leaflet has a map that I'm going to ask to change in the future if we're going to keep doing this work, because I like it. It looks really good, but it's too much information that a sommelier will not need. So we need to find a way to make this map a bit more like, I think that the goal right now for the next few years is to have a map that gives you, I would say like two maps, one in two rounds. The first one just tells you where Bulgaria is specifically, which is
Yeah.
down here, but is really small. And the second thing is seeing the difference from the colline metallifere going towards the sea. So I want this thing to be really clear. So a map that most represents that. Now here, this is where most of the job goes. So it's like I need to use. This is basically the consortio. I was there doing the Imprimeur when I think you were there, no?
No.
Okay, so we did like a sort of Imprimeur, and they gave like a 10, 15 pages thing. That's the first way to bring somebody away. So what I did is like I rewrote it in less than a page. And
Yeah.
my goal is actually in the next year to make it even smaller. So the goal is I'm thinking about, this is the thought when I do these things. Apart from the last paragraph, where is just the vintage, the rest is what I would like to study in a WSET book for level 4 diploma about Bulgari. Literally every information is here. And the information are going like this. Because you need to think from a really stupid perspective, which is
Yeah.
mostly differences. Like, for example, for this UK market based, I basically hidden inside the writing differences between Bulgari and Bordeaux without mentioning Bordeaux. So that's, because what you need to think is, I'm not going to mention Super Tuscans. I might just going to mention it in the future. I need to have a think about it on how actually the work is going to be done, and actually also how the consortium wants to think about it. But like the first paragraph is telling you this is how big Bulgari is, which is fairly small. So you need to understand that Bulgari is as big as Poyak, but without me saying it. First thing. The second one is telling you how it goes. So Colline Metallifere and the beach. This is the third one is telling you the classic WST thing. So like temperature, diurnal range, annual rainfall, and disease and pests. Then is soils, and then is laws. So like the main thing about Bulgari is there are a tiny bit. Now even Bordeaux has new grapes. So you have Syrah, you have Sangiovese. I think you have Malbec as well. I think now I don't know, because we're
Someone
making
has
use
Malbec,
of
I think.
Marittimo, which is outside, so that is not in there now. Might be in the future, I think. Um, and slightly, because I don't want to make it too hard, like minimum year, minimum aging. Okay, so that's it. So in this information now you have everything. Now this comes now to the work around tasting. So this is how it works. Or sometimes in many booklets that you have the faces of the family, a place of the estate. I don't give a shit. If I am a producer, if I am a supplier, or if I am a sommelier, the only thing that I care is the label. Now, the recognition of the label as a sommelier happens only through repetition. So my goal is to create a leaflet that creates most repetition possible. So for example, we are thinking about not putting numbers. So because usually, like here I have wine number 1, 2, 3, 4, but in the actual tasting, I'm thinking of not using the numbers so that people can orientate themselves only by connecting the labels.
Yeah, that's a
So
good
by
idea.
doing that, I literally done most of the psychological job in one go. And this shit is so cheap. Make this is really cheap, and
Yeah.
it takes probably less work than anything else. And now you will think, oh, this is like really, first of all, it took a tiny bit of time to think about it. Like the production is really cheap. The idea, like if you ask like somebody to do the graphics on this, it would take ages if you're like an Italian, because the Italians are like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, but they will never think about the market. This one is thought from page 1 to last page, just for the marketing which is coming. And this is something that I never seen anybody doing. And
Yeah, that's good.
we're thinking about doing the same for every single masterclass. So in probably in the next future masterclass of me and Federico we're going to do, there's always going to be a leaflet. So the first thing when we work with someone is like, okay, if you don't have a leaflet that every single estate is going to give, you're done. I don't believe in this. So that's really, really, really important. Exactly. It's like flashcards in quick training. This is literally, this is an Anki deck.
Yeah.
And who is a sommelier knows what I'm talking about. So this is an Anki deck. So every single leaflet that I create works like an Anki deck. And I think that
That's great.
the funny thing is that these small paragraphs are like 5 years of work, because this, or 10 or 15, depending on how good the communication goes and how much people are receptive to it. But that means that most of the things that are here are literally, because this is how I see it. When I read about it, what I'm thinking is, okay, now I've got this paragraph here that tells me everything about Bulgari. How can this turn into a masterclass? I'll give you an idea. So the first thing is that it tells me that Bulgari is not big, is small. Fine. The second one tells me there's the Collina Metallifera that goes towards down the slope. This is the first section of the masterclass. A wine from Collina Metallifera, a wine from the sandy part. Then diurnal range and everything, boom, good. Third one, marine and alluvial on origin, boom. Two soils over two wines. Then all the part of the law, single monovarietal. So one wine that is 100% Sangiovese against a blend.
Yeah.
One that is slightly outside the area and one in. And then vintage recognition, because there's another thing. We need to think, how are we going to sell this wine? What is the key of selling Bulgari? What we think is that even if the vintage variation is not as big as Bordeaux, the key of selling Brunello and Bulgari is in vintages. So, for example, we did a special. Think about this: like you do a special. Think about 2015 in Brunello against 2015 in Bulgari. Very completely different things.
Completely different. Yeah.
Completely different things. So we do most master classes, like like Biondi Santi versus Sassicaia, so you can understand what 15 means, because it's weird, especially in that area in Bulgari, is weird. So basically, it's all about understanding, and the best way to do it is fucking copying France, because this is another thing. Like, think about how many stupid things we have in Italy. Like, think that Italy is based on a base versus a riserva, when Bordeaux is based on Grand Van and second label. There's a huge difference. Because Italy starts with the base wine and then go into the Riserva. Bordeaux starts with the Grand Van to go to the second label. This is dangerous stuff.
That is a completely different way of thinking.
Man, it's dangerous, because then Italy, like when I wrote for Carlo Macchi, I wrote an article that, to be honest, I was thinking I would get like crucifixed a bit more than what it actually happened. But I wrote like five guides for winemakers, 5 points for winemakers. And, actually, let me, because I'll take 5 minutes more so I can go and check.
Yeah, then I'll let you leave, because we're already at 1.5 hours. So I don't want
Yeah, no, if you know that when it comes to me, is always like that. It's just that so I can go on and put the thing in. So the first one was put more online presence. Boom. The second one is, because there's not like, for example, I would like to see how they prune, I don't know, at Villa Bucci, I will follow that account straight away, but they don't do it. There's so much information that gets lost that I can, like I could do great vintages report without going there if somebody could use properly their Instagram, and nobody's doing it at the moment. No one. Second is, no more terrible online shops. Online shops, I don't think, are for wineries. I think that suppliers need to do online shops.
No, because I don't think they sell much, because they don't have any marketing behind. So.
Exactly. So why do you need to spend so much? Let the suppliers do shop online, not wineries. And to be honest, even if somebody wants to buy the wine, I prefer like a classic email, because if I want to buy it, you can just say, I prefer Alessandro Morichetti telling me that he likes that wine, and I'll buy it more from him. Like, I think that, there needs to be a game between the supplier and the producer, like a 50-50 game, like it happens with Do You Wine, or when it happens with AAA. In England, it happens with, I don't know, Swig, Giasterini. The third one was, choice. Like, you need to choose carefully who speaks about your wines. And it's like, check on Ninjalytics what is the actual, you see all these people like, 40,000 followers. They're all bought, man. They're all bought. So,
but I mean, that's also a thing you have to, as you say there, because I work with this daily. You have to, because they don't understand that it's not about, as you say, about the numbers, but it's actually who knows who you are and who can actually share information about you in a way that benefits you, not.
And the last two are like unite, in the sense like put yourself together, Mamoyada, Radda. Man, that's the future. The future is that the critics are not going to give shit about you, you know? So put yourselves together. And I said one thing, in Marche is easier to do a tasting of Bianchello rather than Verdicchio.
Yeah.
That's where we are at. That's where we are at. And the last one, which is the connection to what I'm saying, is please stop complaining in your interviews. The thing that I hated the most during pandemic, it literally drives me fucking nuts, is that these people, all these winemakers, say, oh my God, I've got so much wine in my cellar. Yeah, what have you done for it? Have you ever read a marketing book? Have you ever bought someone to do marketing for you?
No, that's true. They're all very good points.
This is the reality, you know. And to be honest, I mean, and this is the thing. Oh, I don't have the money for it. You don't have £10 to buy a Seth Godin book. This is what you're saying to me.
Yeah.
It's just lazy. It's just fucking lazy, and I don't like it. It's just like, you know, this is, if you want to take your job seriously.
That's also, I mean, you don't have to invest in a super big agency in Milan or Rome. You can find a person that works, you know, close to where you live, that knows a lot of things for a much cheaper price.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is that, like, the future is great, but we need to start. We need to start right now. You know, Italy could be the next big thing, but it all depends on us if we want to make it.
No, that's for sure.
That's it. So for me, I'm really happy to do, you know, all these works, because I need to see it, you know, because that's another thing, you know, I've been talking about this, you know, revolution and stuff, but I never touched it. What I can tell you is that this Bulgari Anteprima was overbooked, so we had enough tickets sold to do like 4 full days. It's ridiculous because people want Italy, but there's no one that speaks to them about it. So, and for me, it's not only Bulgari, or it's everything.
No,
And,
it's every small area, because, I mean, or big area, because they have interesting things to say, but it's all lost in translation or lost in communication. Thank you, Nelson, for all.
Thank you, Kat. It's been nice to see you, and I'm sorry for this late thing, my Google thing, but it's always nice to chat about these things. It's been good because in English, like when I speak in Italian, is I think in a way less aggressive, but more like is easier to get lost in things. So it's been a nice chat. There's always something inside that I need to take out, and this has been a really good
there's been a bit of
informal chat between friends about what I think about all this stuff. So it's been great. So guys, follow Kat a bit more.
No, thank you a lot. And Evelyn says hi, and there were some others, but they're all very shy. There's not many who said anything. But I hope to see you soon at the next tasting here in Italy or wherever. And have a nice evening. Grazie.
You too. Guys, I'll see you soon.
Ciao.